28th of August.
I do try to be responsible and read the minutes.
I always do too at home. This meeting of the St. Augustine Port Waterway and Beach District for August 19th, 2025. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would any commissioners like to offer an invocation? Looking at you, Tom.
Designated.
Let's pray. Dear Father in heaven, we ask you to be with us at this meeting, to give us the wisdom and the understanding to pass the motions and to make the rules, to make our waterways and beaches safer. We ask you to be with us and give us the ability to do the right job. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Linda.
Commissioner Kirker? Present.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Bender?
Here.
Commissioner Rivers?
Here.
Commissioner Flowers? Absent.
Next item is adoption and approval of agenda. Do any commissioners have any modifications to the agenda as written? Commissioner Flowers is not here, so I would suggest that we strike new business item B, as that was her agenda item.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second. Not minutes, agenda. The agenda as modified? Of course. And that's a second. All in favor? Aye. Great. Public comment? Any members of the public? No. Government representative comments?
I'll kick it off.
Commissioners, Eric Malden, City of St. Augustine Harbor Master. I'll start with the good news first, and then go downhill from there. So rarely do we ever get one of these, but I am bringing a check back to you guys for a derelict boat restitution pay. One of the derelict boats that was recovered from Flagship a couple months ago. They went to go register another vehicle or vessel and couldn't do it, so they ended up having to pay restitution towards that. So you guys will be receiving a check back for $3,450.
Very nice.
This to Elise. I've got a little slideshow here. I'll show you guys a few things, a couple things that'll need your approval on, move forward, and then just some informational pictures as well. So a few weeks back, another Salt Run channel marker. As you can see in the top right picture there, the big white mark on it looks like it did get hit by a boat. It was leaning over a pretty good angle, so we went out there and removed it so that it didn't cause harm to any other vessels passing by. And then at the bottom left there, you'll see the temporary buoy that Commissioner Way had acquired for us a ways back. It came in handy. We brought that out with us at the same time and deployed it, so there was never a time when there wasn't a channel marker in that place to enter Salt Run, especially that one's a pretty critical one there at the entrance. So we'll need the request support to contact Taylor Engineering for quotes and replacement of that.
Question on that.
Yes, sir.
Since that's the second time the channel marker was hit since I've been on the board in a year and a half, should we do a better design of the channel marker, reinforce somehow that's Coast Guard approved?
Yeah, it may maybe something for Taylor to look at, alternative materials or buoy piling, different material piling. I would leave that in Taylor's hands as far as what their recommendations are, because, I mean, as you know, this is probably not going to be the last time.
We've discussed that with them in the past because those markers get knocked over so many times. My recollection is that the takeaway from it was essentially that they would have to, anything that's driven down, it doesn't matter what the material is, the hard pan, because it's deep enough and the hard pan is shallow enough, it's very vulnerable to getting knocked over.
Yeah.
So if they were to put something in, it would have to be something more like a bridge piling, where you're actually, you're drying it out, you're walling it, you're drying it out, you're pouring concrete, you're getting rebar deep down. So that's going to be, each one of those is going to cost $50,000 at a minimum. We should talk to them again about that, though, Commissioner Bender. It's not a bad idea. But
critical areas, a cluster of 3 together or something, make it a little stronger, things like that.
The other thing, and Commissioner Kirker just brought this up, is that they had mentioned is if it's a strong enough piling, it will sink boats. People are banging into these things all the time, so maybe it's better to give them some give and not constantly be sinking boats than to be ripping people apart. But I'll get in touch with Taylor about this, Commissioner Bender, about this replacement, and I'll also ask them to come next month and talk about alternatives so that we don't have to keep replacing them, if that's changed in the 5 years since we last talked about it.
Yeah. I did save the signs on it as well. They were still in excellent shape, so those are stored at the marina. So if they do need those when they put the new piling up, they're available. One less thing to purchase. All right, on to the next. So in June 29th, we went into Salt Run and noticed some derelict docks up in the marsh. The top right-hand picture was the first picture that we saw of them. At that point, we did contact one of our contractors for a removal quote. It was not something that we were able to do on our own because of the location and how big the material was. During that time, they drifted to Little Beach, just to the southeast or southwest of Salt Run there on the 12th. That's where the other picture is, where they rested until we had them removed. Flagship Towing, same contractor that we used for the derelict boats. They also removed the docks for us. The quote for that and removal was $12,500. They used our boat ramp facility to offload those docks and put them on a flatbed trailer for removal and disposal. We are requesting the port for a reimbursement of $12,500 for the removal of those concrete floating docks. And I do have the invoice, the quote, purchase order, and other closeout pictures as well for your records.
Right, and just to remind the rest of the board, our budget line item for debris removal is only $10,000, so this exceeds that, so we will need to have a formal vote on reimbursement for that if any commissioners would like to so move.
And as long as it's not a critical time issue, it would be best to put this on next month's agenda so it's noticed before that vote is taken.
That's a good point, yeah.
They are already removed and supposed to there's no hazard to anybody.
Great.
I'll leave this with Elise for y'all's review as well.
Great, thanks. So Elise, can you make sure to add that to next month's agenda, reimbursement for derelict dock removal?
All right, one other item just for information so you guys can see. The sailboat that sank north of the Bridge Alliance the day before 4th of July, it has been removed. Flagship Towing also was awarded that contract. That was for $23,500. Yeah, here's some pictures. The crane, turbidity curtain, while they were working. Once they lifted it up, you can see the condition it was in. That was only 5 weeks of it being underwater, and how fast that growth occurred on it. They hauled it out to San Jose Marine Center on a lowboy tractor, and then disposed of it at their off-site. Did that in about 3/4 of a day or so.
Yeah, what was the price on that again?
It was $23,500.
Yeah.
Are you looking for reimbursement for that too?
Clearly speaking, we already submitted the grant application for that. So that was with the other vessels, or?
Jacob Weber, our grants administrator, is going to apply to fines for removal of this boat, and we're requesting a 25% match from the Waterway Beach District.
Okay, so it's going to be just shy of $6,000. Okay.
And that is all I have, unless you guys have any further questions.
So when we review the treasurer's report later on, for next year's purposes, we should consider increasing the committed funds for derelict boats and debris removal?
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense.
Thank you.
And, okay, we'll wait for the officers.
Right, who I believe are probably up next. Any other government representatives?
Hello, Commissioners. Carl Blow with the Florida Inland Navigation District. I've got a handout that I need to give you. And, I'm here today basically to update you on how our grant program, the results for this year. Let me give you this handout.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, what you're looking at is the score sheet for the Waterway Assistance Program grants. And the way that program works is obviously local governments submit grant applications, and you guys have been involved with that for years, providing local matches and so forth. And the applications go into the main fine office, and basically we, in our June fine board meeting, it's a 2-day meeting, and the local government representatives come down to Cocoa Beach and do presentations for their grant applications, and then the commissioners score each application. And right now we're short one commissioner, so we have 11 commissioners, and what happens, each commissioner has a score sheet. They turn that into staff, and they basically take the 11 score sheets and come up with a final score for each grant application. So what you're looking at is the score sheet based on the highest scoring project all the way down to the lowest scoring project. And what I've done here is highlighted the grant applications that came from, St. Johns County, which would include the city, and so basically, as you can see, the first one at the very top of the list that scored the highest is the Salt Run Channel dredging, maintenance dredging project. And that highest possible score is 50, and this one scored 49.18. So that was number one out of some 40 plus grant applications, or more than that actually. But at any rate, so I'm 99.9% sure that that will be funded when we do our final budget here next month. Moving on down the list, the next one is is from St. Johns County. Of course, backing up, obviously number one you guys are familiar with, Salt Run Dredging. You provide the 25% local match, and of course the applicant's the city. Moving on down is the next one is from St. Johns County. It was for dredging Doug Crane boat ramp. And if you note in your copy, that particular one is kind of gray, and you'll see some of these others are also gray. And what that means is that project still needs to have all its permits in place before we can fund it. And on the second page, you'll see a little note down there that says highlighted projects still need permits by September 16, 2025. So I think what the county's waiting for is their core permit for actually kind of like a renewal of their core permit for dredging Doug Crane. So hopefully that they'll have that by September 16th. But I can tell you, the regulatory division of the Corps is moving really, really slow right now. Because primarily most of those guys took early retirement when that was. The next one down is from the city of St. Augustine. It's the Eddie Vickers Park Kayak Launch, Phase 2, which is the actual construction. This is being funded. The local match came from their CRA and the local Lincolnville CRA. And so anyway, here again, I'm pretty sure that's going to, that will be funded. Then moving on down further, towards the bottom of the page, you have another one from St. Johns County. Now, this is the Riverdale boat ramp parking Phase 2 or construction. What they're doing out there is increasing the amount of parking. This is over on the river. It's actually outside y'all's district. But this one, it doesn't need permits, but it may not go forward this year because there's an eagle that has nested close by. And as long as the eagle's there, you can't, move forward. So we'll see how that turns out. And then just moving to the second page, just to point out a couple of things. The total amount of grant, the total value of, or the total request of grants this year was $38,921,254. And as I said before, the ones that are shaded are ones that still didn't have all their permits in place. And so the way things work is this year in our proposed budget, we have $30 million for this grant program. So basically, as you go down based on how you score, when we run out of $30 million, anything below that line obviously won't be funded. So you can kind of see in there, I think it's somewhere around up city of Fort Lauderdale is kind of where between there and Miami Beach, there's an area that's where the $30 million will run out. Now, but what actually happens in real life is these projects that are above the funding line that are shaded because they're waiting for permits, if they don't have permits by September 16th, they're out of luck. They won't be funded. So generally what happens is we end up funding everything that's requested because we have so many that drop out due to lack of permits. So the other thing that's kind of interesting, if you look on the second page, in the very bottom, there's a grant application from the city of Miami. That was Morningside Park, Phase 2. Its score, it's hard to read, I know, was 30.82. You have to score at least a 35 in our program to be funded at all. And so that particular project, no matter what, even if it was the only application, wouldn't be funded because it didn't score high enough. And to be quite frank with you, the reason it didn't score very well is the city of Miami has been kind of anti-boating access in that particular area. And so the fine board, I think, looked at it as why should we provide funding if this particular boat ramp is being constricted as far as its use. So that's what happened there. So that's where we are. I'm pretty confident that everything that we requested from St. Johns County and the city will be funded in our final budget.
What's the significance of the dark line on the second page?
Normally, that's where the $30 million runs out. I'm not sure.
$1 million at that point.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think they just got it in the wrong place.
Another question I have is the ones that still need to be funded for St. Johns County by the 16th of September, Is there any reason that you can think of that they might not get funded?
You mean the Doug Crane?
I'm talking about the Doug Crane.
Yeah, what's happening there is that's a dredging project which is, generally scores high and is very important. They had to renew all their permits, including their Army Corps of Engineers permit. And what has happened in the last, well, first off, let me back up. The Corps regulatory folks are famous for not moving very quickly. Even before the last couple of years. But in this last year, what happened is there's been obviously changes up in Washington, and one of the things that happened is it was an effort to downsize the workforce. So there was an offer to all federal workers that, hey, you can take a cash payment and retire early. Well, the regulatory folks in the Jackson district who have been here a while and very familiar with our area, a significant number of those folks took early retirement and left. And so they also experienced that in other core districts around the country. So they have a manpower problem right now. It's obviously going to have a negative impact on the timeline it takes, or the amount of time it takes to get a permit reviewed and issued. So that's the case, and that's impacting not only government but obviously the private sector. So, and hopefully, I don't think you guys have anything that you're really waiting on permits for. Salt Run, the permits all active and ready to go. That's shovel ready. So fortunately, right now, I think the port is in good shape, as far as I know. Okay.
Other questions for Carl?
Any other
Just
questions?
one question back to the Salt Run. With the requested assistance, $300,000, plus I believe we gave to the city 2 shots of $100,000 each.
Yeah, well, I'll if the city wants to explain.
So
how
that's
that-
$200,000, $300,000. Is there any previous money you provided to the same Salt Run, or this is it?
Yeah, what we've been doing, and
What I'm trying to do is just gather how much money they've gotten committed
Yeah.
to do 2 agencies, and how much money do you actually need, and when will you be starting?
well, ideally, and I'll let Corey come up, but it's my understanding is and I'm part of the problem here, I guess, is to really dredge Salt Run completely all at once and get it to its 10 feet depth would require a significant amount of money. And so starting years ago, instead of trying to fund the entire thing, what we would do is, and not working with the city is in the port, is we would do smaller grant applications so that would for Salt Run dredging, which would leave funding for other projects to apply for grants. And so the city would basically apply for, come to see you guys and apply for a grant, and with the idea that they would kind of accumulate 3 grants, say, and then actually do the project, because in that way it doesn't put a severe, it doesn't suck up all the grant money in 1 year, and does that make sense? Because that's what we've been doing. Huh?
Less overhead, too.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll let Corey address this, but the other problem we're running into is, and this is a problem we run into across the whole district, is the cost of dredging is really gone up significantly. And actually, I think, Corey, you were telling me this particular project that they're about to do, they're under an older unit price, and probably after this, you're going to be, they're going to be subject to a much higher price. And part of what we need to do, and I'm kind of working on this with my fine folks, is address this issue of final disposal of dredged material. That's, you know, we're in a precarious situation in this area right now because there's really only one place to take this material, and there's really only one contractor that controls that final disposal location. So what I'm working with Fine staff is improving a location we have on the Intercoastal Waterway up in Jacksonville that would be a great location to be able to unload dredged material and leave it there and let it dry out. And then that way you have many more disposal options than this one we're working with right now.
There was some talk in the past that the Sebastian property could be utilized for that material until it dried out.
The Sebastian property.
That's the, over the 312 bridge.
Oh, you mean the county's
Yes.
Genovar's property? Yeah, well, that's the discussion I've had with them too, but that would be a temporary location. In
Right.
other words, they could unload it there.
Let it dry and go.
Let it dry for a little while, but it still needs a permanent home.
Because again, last time I met with the county on that property, they hadn't gotten clearance from their commissioners to move ahead. So I'm not sure what's happened since that time. But they do have the property.
Yeah, well, my understanding is they're well into design and permitting, and they may be coming to find this next grant cycle for construction dollars. Obviously, you know, the maximum amount of money that I anticipate being available for grants for projects in St. Johns County next year is probably going to be around 1.1 to maybe 1.3 million dollars, and I think the cost of developing that park is going to be, or at least the boat ramp part would exceed that. They may be coming to see you guys, you know. So, but yeah, to answer your question, the understanding, and I think it's actually documented, is that that facility could be utilized to unload dredged material primarily from the San Sebastian River and temporarily stored until the final disposal location is out.
Good. All right. Thank you, Carl.
All right, thank you.
Any other government representatives?
Corey Sackwood with the City of St. Augustine. I can address a few of the legacy salt run stuff we've been working on. So this will be, we're approaching the third project that I've been associated with since I come on board the city. We traditionally daisy chain multiple grants in accordance with fines rules and regulations that allow us to have multiple grants open. The idea being is that we reduce mobilization costs by, at first we were doing 2 grants at one time, and then my first project we had 3 grants that we went ahead and initiated a project, and at that time that project was $600,000. We were able to dredge the whole 1.8 mile section, and we were able to get it to almost our permitted depth, which was minus 10 at mean low water. We were able to get the whole channel at least to minus 9.5. We did the project a couple of years later in 2022, and there we had we had 3 grants also together where we had another $600,000, and in those grants FIND, and we utilized every option available with FIND in the fact that they give us 2 years to do one project, and then we got a second project, and that would be the second year of that first project, and then we were able to get a 1-year extension to get that third one in. So we would do 3 at once, and at the time we asked FIND for $150,000 each, and we asked the Port Waterway and Beach District for $50,000, the 25% match. That second project that we completed in 2022, we were only able to get it to minus 8.5 for the 1.8 mile channel. And generally speaking is the area from, say, the conch house all the way up to the boat ramp. That's the area that gets the most sedimentation and most spoil accumulation. This time, we did not ask for a project in 2023 from either the port or the either find, but last year we applied and we received, actually we were fortunate enough to select number one 2 years in a row now, so we asked for $300,000 from find last year, and this year, with Carl's just mentioning the projects, and then of course we asked the Port Waterway and Beach District for that 25% match. So going into September, I've already cut a purchase order for to our current dredger, who is in the twilight of their contract. This contract's sundowning, and yes, we've had contract increases over the years renewing it, and we're up to $65 a cubic yard to remove this material. It was really a great conversation when we presented our grant defense in June down in Cocoa Beach, like Carl said, because my opinion is that's going to be one of our biggest challenges in the future of the site that we currently have on our current contractor. I don't believe they're going to have enough space to continue doing projects. So it was really imperative that we nail this project, with the support of the Port Waterway and Beach District. So now we have two projects that we're going to execute the grant agreement hopefully as soon as possible in October, because I've already, in that first purchase order to our dredger, it includes a pre-dredge survey. So we're trying to schedule our contractor to begin pre-dredge survey of Salt Run the second week of September, so we can work with our other contractor, Taylor Engineering, to determine where we need to pull out the most spoil. And the idea being is we get as close to that permitted template as possible.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Saggart. Any questions? No? Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Any other government representative comments? Here they come.
Chris Passetti, St. Augustine Fire Department.
Josh Underwood, St. Johns County Sheriff's Office.
Ryan Frasco, St. Augustine Police Department.
Start off with so we've had a couple pretty interesting calls lately. I think there was like a 4-day span that we had like 5 true legitimate rescues that happened in a really narrow window. So
Excuse me, just talk a little bit, pull the mic down.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of calls over the last weekend. So we had one was a dinghy that got pulled out of the inlet around 3-4 o'clock in the morning, overturned in the North Shoal, had 3 people aboard, and so that set off a pretty good response. It was middle of the night. They didn't have any lights, navigation equipment, anything like that. It was just a small dinghy, no anchor, nothing at all aboard. So that started a pretty good response between us, Sheriff's Office, PD, all the agencies involved. So we were able to rescue those 3, which is quite a feat in the middle of the night on the shoals. So that one turned out really well. And then the other day we had the girl that was swimming across the inlet, got pulled out, and again, all of us went out and grabbed her. So I'm not sure you want to add any more on that. We had a few other calls. Yeah, we had a few false calls as well that ended up being unfounded. One was someone said they thought a fisherman fell overboard, and so we ended up with a pretty major search over that. And then a jet ski that I do believe those people saw what they think they saw. Some people fell off a jet ski, but by the time they got past the Bridge of Lions, they hadn't got back on, and I think they ended up getting back onto the ski, but it was out of their sight, so that led to another pretty lengthy search. But on all of these, we treat them real until we can, truly identify that we saved them when we found them, or we just get them as unfounded because we can find no evidence that it occurred.
Right. There's a question on that 4 a.m. dinghy call. Did you guys end up using any of that fancy night vision equipment or anything that we've bought for you over the years? Okay. Yeah,
absolutely. We use the nods. The nods and and all the Raymarine, like the FLIR cameras and stuff. So that's 100% was one of the deciding factors, because there was no moon at that point. And when you go out there, you're kind of backlit too. So even when you're trying to see, because you have to go out around the sea buoy and try to make your best approach with the waves and all that stuff on the shoals. So that was, without a fact, one of the deciding factor on that outcome. So
great, glad to hear it.
I'm not sure if you guys heard or not, but our partner from the Coast Guard, they've had a change of command recently. So it's now Captain Alexa that's in charge of our area of responsibility.
I had not heard that.
What's the name? I didn't understand.
Captain Alexak. I can spell it for you.
Okay,
That way
yeah.
you have the right. It's Aleksak.
S-E-K?
Correct. Yeah. And he's the captain of the port for Sector Jacksonville, so Brunswick to Canaveral. And the only additional that I'm asking for is to continue our overtime for the sheriff's office for the $25K for next budget year.
Our request is the same for the St. Augustine Fire Department, 10,000, and St. Augustine Police Department, 10,000, so the same, just continuing. There were, if you look at your spreadsheets there was some confusion this past year on billing. So we actually submitted for about $8,700 in reimbursement off of the $10,000. I don't know where it ended up in our purchasing, finance, whatever, but we have that worked out now. Moving forward, it should not be a continuing issue. So it was getting lost in the finance puzzle.
So you're asking for 10,
Correct.
you're asking for 25.
And yeah, just a continuation of last year's
Yeah,
amounts
yeah.
is what they're all saying.
thing from last year.
Okay, so it's just the two of you, right?
One minute's
No,
Pat
three.
Harvey, City of St. Augustine
And
Police
10
Department.
City.
Yeah, we have City of we have City PD,
City of St.
County
James,
Sheriffs, and City Fire, all asking for continuations.
spent 10,000.
Two short guys showed up for Pat to fill in.
And Mr. Chair, is that, just so we understand, every year, would you like us to come back and do the same to keep it rolling, or?
Yeah,
change, or-
I don't think it would hurt. Yeah, especially in a year in which we have a new board member or new board members, I think it makes sense to come in just to, to justify yourselves a little, a little bit. But yeah, I don't anticipate that being an issue on the budget. So thank you all for coming in.
Especially around this time of the year when we're trying to set up the treasurer's report for next year to make sure we have adequate money in it.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Good. All right. Thank you very much. Any other government representative comments? Hearing nothing. Secretary Treasurer's report.
City Police Law Enforcement overtime of the 10,000 committed, I have 3,867 paid, spent. On the Sheriff's Department overtime of the 25,000, I have 25,947 spent, went over by $947. The City of St. Augustine Fire Department of the 10,000, I have 665. The derelict boats, I have, of the 25,000 committed, we have spent 5656. Channel marker repairs, we went over, it was 10.5, we went over, it was 11,002 is what was spent. In the Florida State Board of Administration, we have 26,009. In the operating account, we have approximately 741,000. In the money market account, we have 1,330,000, and in the reserve, 500,000. So basically, in the money market account, that one account, there's 1,000,008. Of the taxes budgeted, we budgeted 930,766, and we received 921,504. We're still expecting $9,262.
Mr. Chair, if I could, since a couple of those line items were slightly over what the budgeted amount was, and the treasurer's report is technically an agended item, for housekeeping purposes, it would be great if a commissioner could make a motion to approve the overages and second and vote on that, just to button that up.
Makes sense. Do any commissioners want to make that motion to approve those overages? That's a motion from Commissioner Bender. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kirker. All in favor? Aye.
That has to be done for audit purposes also.
Yep. Makes sense.
Is this appropriate time to talk about increases for guidance for the treasurer for next year?
We'll have a budgeting meeting. We'll have a meeting where we actually establish the budget for next year,
Yeah, September.
which will be in
Our
September.
September meeting.
So that would be the time to do it. Good. Any other questions on the Secretary Treasurer's report? Hearing nothing. Next agenda item is approval of minutes from the July 15th, 2025 meeting. They were sent out and then modified slightly. Do any commissioners see any other need for any other modifications? Hearing nothing. Do I have a motion to approve as written?
So moved.
So moved. Second. There's a second. All in favor? Aye. No engineering report, but just as a reminder, I will call Taylor Engineering when I'm done with this meeting to ask about the Salt Run red number 2 replacement, and also ask them to come talk about stronger pilings if there are any other options available. That brings us to...
Just on that point with the engineer's report, since they were aware of the channel marker 2 being damaged, I would have thought they would have been here today to partake in the discussion and not waste an additional month in terms of discussions.
Yeah, I think they're in a reactive position at this point where they're only acting if we tell them to. So going forward, maybe it would make more sense for one of us to contact them before the meeting to tell them to be here. I'll call them and talk to them about that as well. Old business, Dolphin Drive Boat Basin Project, Eric Malton. Oh, or Corey Sackard. Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Corey Sacker with the City of St. Augustine. Sorry I was not able to be here for the last month's meeting. I believe there were some questions brought up about the project that was approved at the June meeting for the Port Waterway Beach District to fund the initial engineering and design and permitting of the Dolphin Drive Boat Basin project. This project is a repeat project that was done many years ago in combination with the city, and I don't believe it was funded with the port, but it was well before my time. Mr. Ford had reached out to the city and asked to revise the project again because that man-made basin needed dredging one more time, needed dredging again. And with that, the city had sponsored the project in that we dredged the area, and then we applied it to their ad valorem taxes, and the residents that benefited from the project paid for it over a period of approximately 20 years. Since then, now that the project needs to be done again, the city has jumped on board and working with Mr. Ford, who was the applicant, to move forward on this project. The board approved Mr. Ford's project with the city, him being the sponsor and then the city being the project manager, which we will. I'd sent an email to all the board members because I saw when I'd missed the meeting, there were some questions on the project and any types of conflicts of interest. I went ahead and reached out to our city attorney with the City of St. Augustine, and I asked several questions, and some of the questions along the line were from their perspective, and only their perspective was stating that, was Taylor Engineering involved at all with the development of the application? And in this instance, there was no. And then the next question was because Taylor Engineering is on a continuing service contract with the city, but yet I also understand they are representing the Port Waterway and Beach District. So they didn't help develop that application. The next question was, did they help score the application with the board members? And I mentioned to our attorney, no, it was all 5 of the board members that reviewed the application and went ahead and approved the application. And it was her opinion that there was no conflict of interest because the city had gone out on their own and formally procured engineering services from Taylor Engineering. So we have a proposal with Taylor Engineering. In this email that I wrote, I was also planning on being on vacation, but I'd love to be here with you guys. I have a very understanding wife. But I wanted, before I went ahead and cut the purchase order, I just wanted to address the board one more time because the idea of Mr. Ford doing this was the city is going to put it in our budget to have this design, permitting, and stuff done, but that won't be available until October 1st at the earliest. And so Mr. Ford wanted to move forward with the project, and that's when he come to me and asked about bringing an application to the port. So I've held off until this meeting to listen to any further guidance from the Port Waterway and Beach Commissioners, because of course we're great partners together, and I want to make sure that any of the questions are answered. I've spoken with a couple of commissioners already, and I'm available for any questions.
If I may, I'm going to refer back to Mr. Ford's application, and for description of work, please note Exhibit A from Taylor Engineering proposal. So I can't see how somebody could say they were not involved in the development of that application. Mr. Ford got information from Taylor Engineering, and they put it as part of their proposal, and that's what was submitted to the district.
I understand, Commissioner. I understand that the city, under the, like I said, the city, we were going to go ahead and sponsor the project and move forward with the project. The city went ahead and procured that proposal, and I shared that proposal with his what is the scope of work. So yes, I would say technically you're correct, Commissioner. They had the proposal that he utilized as an attachment, but he did not contact our point of contact at Taylor Engineering, if I can draw that.
I think at this time I would like to hear from our attorney. The minutes that we approved from last month says that our attorney is able and willing to give us some more guidance as to the Taylor Engineering aspects.
Would you like me to deliver from here or up there?
There is fine, I think.
So there's the statute that governs engineers is Chapter 471, and the specific provision that potentially touches upon this would be 471.033, which indicates that an engineer shall not engage in fraud or deceit, negligence, incompetence, or misconduct in the practice of engineering, and it defers to the board that governs engineering as to define misconduct. And under Florida Administrative Code, Section 61G, as in Gary, 15-19, it enumerates the different things that can constitute misconduct, and one of them, the potentially most pertinent one, would be an engineer does commit misconduct if they become involved in a conflict of interest with an employer or client without the knowledge, and approval of the client or employer, but if unavoidable, a professional engineer shall immediately take the following actions, and it enumerates steps that an engineer can take if the conflict is unavoidable to address it or potentially remedy it. I can't and won't speak to the city's dealings with Taylor or with Mr. Ford or his organization. They have a better source of knowledge for that, and they have their own independent legal opinion, so I'm not going to step on their toes. But as far as the port is concerned, my understanding of the situation is that when Taylor was potentially approached to give guidance to the Port District on this project, Taylor indicated that they could not because of the conflict of interest. So within that context, Taylor would appear to have complied with the statute and the rules because they declined to enter into a situation where they would potentially be paid for two different sources to give opinions on the same issue. Again, not speaking to any potential conflict or not conflict. I'm not saying there is one or isn't one, just deferring to the city as to their opinions, knowing what happened or didn't happen on their end. But from the port's perspective, given my understanding that Taylor declined to provide services and get paid for those services from the port, I believe they would have effectively avoided any issues with this administrative code provision or the Florida statute. Now, I went a little bit further after the last meeting and did some case law research to see if there was anything that expanded on the administrative code rule or the statute at all. And there was nothing that really discussed this particular issue in any way, shape, or form. There's very little case law at all, actually, on it. It did simply, there were cases that stated that the administrative code is properly adopted and it does apply the way it says, but I couldn't find a reported case that dealt with the port's situation as far as dealing with Taylor. And I think that's the conflict of interest question, understanding and perhaps over-interpreting some of Commissioner Bender's comments. I think the question of whether or not Taylor should have foreseen potentially being in a conflict information, and if any commissioner is upset with them, kind of putting themselves on the sideline, it's not a direct conflict of interest, but it goes to the commission's discretion as to whether they're happy or not happy with Taylor and the services that they provide. And I would certainly answer any follow-up questions.
Good, thank you. Are there any follow-up questions? Hearing nothing? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Sackard. I believe that concludes that business item. Our next item of business is funding request boat slip.
You want to say something else?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So based on that, I have refrained, in my email that Ms. Kemper shared with the board, I have refrained from moving forward with go ahead and cutting that purchase order or that work order to Taylor Engineering based on this conversation. So finalized, we can proceed with Mr. Ford, go ahead and begin the work, or am I waiting till October 1st? Is the board happy with this outcome and we can proceed jump-starting this project, or I can defer to October 1st with the city's funding? And that's what I don't understand is I thought there was a question with whether or not the city still had an approved project to move forward.
There's been no motion even to revoke that approval, so I don't see any reason why you couldn't proceed.
Thank you very
I
much.
have a question for clarification. In your email, you indicated that all of the expenses will be rolled into property assessments, including the $37,000 startup money?
That is correct. We will take this project to our city commission once we get, so we need the design, test.
You're still on.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
My ears are messing up. The need to get the engineering and the design done is so we can determine how many cubic yards of spoil we need to remove out of that basin. And with that, the city, as I mentioned earlier, our current dredging contract is sundowning, so we're going to go out with a new solicitation, and we're going to look out for, we're actually going to try and engage with Taylor Engineering to find multiple continuing services contractors, and I know that might be a big ask in this economy right now, but to find out to have a mechanical on continuing services and to have a hydraulic available on continuing services to permit this project to do both ways, both hydraulic and mechanical, because we have that same option in Salt Run. So we will take the numbers that we get from this design and engineering so we can extrapolate how much a project cost would be to take to our city commission, where they would approve utilizing city reserve funds to do this project, much like we did the last time. And then they would go back and, charge the residents the ad valorem taxes. We'd get their buy-in or not. So this project is intended to be funded by those benefiting from the project.
So with the buy-in from the residents, their property assessments, that would come back each year on a taxable basis to the city to reimburse the project costs?
Correct, yes. That's the way it worked the last time.
Correct, but any cost then that the Port District is providing would also be reimbursed on a yearly basis for 20 years or as a one-shot basis?
I would have to get back to you on that, Commissioner Bender. I don't think it would be on an annual basis, because we would have to fund the upfront cost for the dredging of the project also, and then that total cost with all of the other invoices rolled into it will be what they are assessed over a 20-year period. Now, I have not gone through this process yet. I kind of look forward to it because it's very interesting.
I think what Commissioner Bender's asking, though, is since we're going to put roughly $35,000 into it, if you're going to get that back, is the city going to make $35,000, or do we get our $35,000 back?
Much like earlier when our harbor master mentioned that one of the 10 boat owners that we just hauled out their vessels with, whatever the law enforcement agencies did, they reached out to them and they let them know that the cost of that vessel, which was funded, that vessel removal was funded by you and by Find. We've mailed a check out to Find today, and we presented the Port Waterway Beach District with any funding we get reimbursed with, and that would be the same with this project also.
For ease of bookkeeping, from our point of view, I would hope that our reimbursement would come in the beginning and not have to wait for bookkeeping for a longer period of time.
So the project funding of this, like I said, you guys gave the seed money to go ahead and start the engineering and stuff, but once we get that total amount, and then I go to our city commission and I let them know how much a total dredging project would be, the city would then come forward and allocate the reserves. That would create the rest of the budget money for it, and then we would reimburse the Port Waterway and Beach District for this seed project money.
Right?
Thank you.
Yep. New business, item A, funding request, boat slip, Aaron Braddock, but Mr. Braddock is not here. Mr. Underwood, are you prepared to go ahead with that funding request?
Yes, I'll definitely cover for him.
Okay, great. All commissioners have seen that request, right? It's been a number of months since we first received it, but just to remind everybody, this is for a boat slip, right? A new slip
Correct.
at St. Augustine Marina for the Sheriff's Office boat.
Yes, sir. It's Josh Underwood, St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, and I think the total amount on the application, I can't remember the exact amount. I think it's like 8,000 something. What is it?
8,316.
8,316. So the grant application that Sergeant Braddock did was seeking $8,316 in support to cover the joint public safety vessel slip fee at the St. Augustine Marina. This funding ensures that our agencies can maintain immediate marine access for coordinated emergency response, law enforcement, and public safety operations. The slip provides a strategic staging point that enhances readiness, reduces response times on the water, and strengthens interagency collaboration. Your investment directly supports the protection of the community in the maritime environment and the efficiency shared public safety mission. The slip is for a vessel that was given to us by Ring Power Corporation, fully funded, and the slip would be for us to use, the fire department and the PD, as a joint agency boat and slip.
Right, because each of y'all already has a slip, so this would be in addition to what you have for a
And it would house
more
the
vessel.
specific boat for each of the group to use as they needed it.
Right. Well, we've certainly had a long time to think about this one. Does anybody have any questions?
The funding would be for fiscal year 26?
Correct. It would start October
1?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would anticipate that being in your regular budget after this coming year?
That's my plan, to roll it into our normal budget.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we budget the amount of $8,316 to fund the boat slip for.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Great.
Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
Commissioners.
There are no other business items, so that brings us back to public comment. Any members of the public? No? Comments by commissioners? Mr. Bender?
Just going to throw out some thoughts for our budget meeting next month. Looking at the Treasury's report, even though city law enforcement thinks that the county sheriff's office thinks their money is enough at $25,000, I would consider increasing that. Anything we exceeded this year, I would look at an increase. When we get into derelict boats, I would do much more than a simple increase. I would go, 25,000 maybe to 40,000, and for debris removal, I would go to 20,000 on that. I know it locks money into a committed fund, but we have ample money to do that situation. And also in terms of channel marker repairs, I would have no problem increasing it to 50,000 because we're not sure what the engineers are going to come back and say in terms of a triple piling situation or something more permanent. Just thoughts right now for us to consider for next month.
Well taken. Thank you. Commissioner Rivers?
Nothing.
Commissioner Kirker?
Nothing, thank you.
No additional comments from me, except to say that our next regular meeting will be September 16th, 2025 at 3 p.m., and following that meeting will be our first public trim hearing on September 16th, 2025 at 5:05 p.m. Yes, ma'am.
Bear in mind, under new business, the auditors will be here. They will go first
Yes.
on that. to get them out of here.
Terrific.
And also, just as a reminder to some past commissioners and some of the newer commissioners as well, the port still technically has Resolution 21-01 that was adopted on February 16 of 2021 that establishes a target minimum reserve fund balance of $1.5 million. That is still in existence. That's never been withdrawn by the Port District. We currently have a line item of $500,000, but the target minimum is 1.5. I just wanted to let new commissioners know of that being out there and also have it in everyone's mind as we approach the trim meetings.
That was
Great. Thank you. Well, there being no other business, this meeting is adjourned. You just might make it back in time to meet that AC repair guy.